just gonna go.
No.
And live. Okay. Hi, everyone.
I feel like we're far away now.
Are we?
Maybe we're not, but I just feel like we are. Just there's a big gap.
It's okay. You don't want to be next to me?
No, I'm saying there's a gap. We should be closer. But no.
Like what's the commercial for Gap Insurance? There's the gap.
That's it. That's the only thing they say. There's a gap.
Yeah, and this is like there's a duck here or something like that. But anywho, whatever.
We're here.
Yeah, we're here. It is Stay Mentally Dope. Hopefully you guys, if you guys are new, welcome to the foolishness and the shenanigans of our show, Stay Mentally Dope. If you're not new, then you're pretty true to the fact that we have foolishness and shenanigans. But we also talk about some really, really good stuff. Mm-hmm. And on today's episode, we are talking about another iconic show that I absolutely love is My Wife and Kids. And
I just want to know, is this your show? Is this your comfort show? This is just your show.
No, it's definitely my husband's comfort show. And he has a thing of like watching shows repeatedly to the point that I don't really like them anymore.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But I do like this show. It's just not to watch it every day. But we're talking about this episode of My Wife and Kids. It's season 1 with the original family.
You know how we do.
Mic dropped. Okay. Season 1, and it's called He Said, She Said. And it is an episode where Jay and Michael, the husband and wife, are communicating and not communicating because they're not listening to each other.
Yeah, not communicating. It's probably more accurate.
Yes. And then we're going to talk about like what it looks like to have effective communication, like how it can look in multiple relationships, not just like, in a marriage, and what some of the things that we do, some of the things that we see Jay and Michael do in the show that was positive communication and also negative communication, and how some of that can show up. You want to add anything to that?
No. There's a lot in here. There's a lot to discuss.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump in, and I would love for you guys, if you, as you guys get to watch this and like you get to watch the show too. I mean, also like pause us, watch the show, and then come back and tell us. It's season 1, episode like
7,
something. I'll say 4, but somewhere in there.
It's called He Said, She Said.
Yeah. So yeah, if you find that,
it actually, one of these episodes wasn't right. I had to go looking for this one because you put it, and then it was like later on in the season. So I don't know. So, sometimes they be uploading stuff out of order and they make mistakes. There's a lot of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a side note for like when you're watching the show back and you're just like, how did this show end up in like this synchronized order? And it's not in the order it's supposed to be in. Okay. But anyhow.
But that's very political. That's a whole nother thing. We can't even go into that. But, like I'll be rewatching Boy Meets World, and sometimes they're like, well, this episode is on this way in Disney Plus, but this episode is actually banned because Disney won't play this episode.
Yes.
So it's out of order. So that happens with all like the old TV shows, depending on like if the network liked it or the new network it's going to be on changes, whatever. It's a whole thing.
So I was watching A Different World the other day, and there's like a random episode that they put in like a whole different season. And I was just like, where did this episode come in? We're in a different season and he's not dating her anymore. And like, it's like weird.
And they just put it in there.
Yeah. But anywho, so that may have happened. We don't know.
It should be in the first season.
It's in the first season. It's called He Said, She Said. So let's go to that.
Yes.
So we see when the show is starting off, it is a Saturday.
It's the longest day ever.
Literally the longest day ever. That's talk about that later. But it's a Saturday. Michael wants to spend his Saturday watching sports. He's like, hey, I work all week. This is my one day where I can just sit and just watch sports, and I want to be left alone. Understandable. Jay says it.
Is that a nickname? Is that her name?
I think it's Janet. Her name is Janet Kyle.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something else.
Yes.
So her form of like self-care
is family time.
Yes.
So yeah, she was like, it's Saturday. It's our one day that we can all just like, be together and hang out together and not have to worry about anything else. I want us to spend it together. So we have 2 different expectations of how they want to spend the day.
Yes.
And we see so we see her trying to like interrupt his sports time and like talk to him and stuff like that. And he goes into what I would say is passive aggressive communication because she is annoying him. You can clearly see she's annoying him, and she's talking about like, you know, wanting to spend time together, and he's just like graphically bored, like, oh my gosh, like, why is this happening?
That
like,
was his face.
Yes, like why is this happening? Like, why are you talking to me? I don't want to do this right now. So he does what I would call passive communication by saying like to the kids, your mother wants us to spend time together. Doesn't that sound great? He says it in a tone that makes it sound terrible. And I feel like this is something that I can't speak for anybody else, but I know that I did this a time or two. I've had people like, you know, do it to me. If I say I want to do something, or like, you know, something is important, and the other person would be like, "Oh, you want to go do that? Doesn't that sound amazing? Y'all know Charmaine wants to like sit here and talk, or like whatever it is, like you know, make it seem like that what it is that I've asked for is terrible."
Definitely. I feel like before that he was more assertive. He was like, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not my idea of fun today. And she wasn't having it. And so then she also comes with her communication style, which is a little bit guilt. It starts with a guilt trip.
Yes.
I think of just
she says like, I'll just raise these kids for the rest of their life all by myself. Right. Like, yeah.
And like, oh my God, like he would do this on this day. We never spend time together, like all laying it on thick, and he's feeling bad, even though he's already said, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And then he resorts to the passive communication. Like, all right, let me drag myself in here. Let's do that. Like, let's pretend. Let's essentially go have a scheme to get out of it. And that's a whole nother thing, which we'll get into. But I also think like that's kind of how communication works, right? Like somebody comes, they do one thing, somebody uses a tactic that works or doesn't work. The other person uses a different tactic, works or doesn't work. The other person uses a different tactic, and like we kind of don't get anywhere.
Which is like, that's when it becomes like non-clear communication.
Yeah.
And one thing he also does is that I feel like he does what people do sometimes too, when they look for people to be on their side. So he's not only like passive or like making the situation sound terrible to the kids, but he wants to like get the kids on his side. Like he wants to like ask all the kids, what would you rather be doing than sitting here having this boring conversation with me, with the family?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, your mom wants to have family time when you could be doing this, but like we're gonna be stuck here doing this because it feels better if I have more people on my side who are all telling you that you're tripping. So I win.
But there's also layers to that too, because even when you said that, I was like, ooh, it's tough to be in a partnership and one partner will not support what the other partner decided. So she's like, what if they had already decided, hey, we're going to have a family day. And then all of a sudden he doesn't feel like it. And then he goes and he's like, yeah, your mom wants to do that. Let's do it for her. And then, so it looks like it's her. She's the bad guy.
Yeah. 100%.
And then like, there's no support. There's no buy-in from the rest of the family because dad's not on board. He's making it clear he's not on board. And then it's just a whole thing. Like she's undermined. It feels worse. It's a whole thing.
But I think that so like this isn't even just a marriage thing. Like you're thinking about this just in like relationships and friendships, or like I tell my business partner sometimes if we're in a business meeting, I'm gonna be like, I'm rooting for you in public, but when we get behind closed doors, I'm like, what did you just
say? Exactly. We gonna talk about it.
But in front of everybody else, we have to be, united. Like I'm here for you. Like think about like those little memes when it's like standing behind my best friend, like rooting her up, like knowing she's wrong.
Right.
But like in this moment, I'm like, she wants to go do this. She wants to have a picnic in 100-degree weather. We're gonna have a picnic.
And that's what she said. And that's what she said. And you're gonna be her friend. And you heard what she said.
I'm like, Jasmine, I am dying. It's hot out here, and I don't want to be here. But in the moment, I'm gonna stand behind you in this decision that you have made.
Because you were my person, right?
Yes.
And I feel like there's layers to that already too. So like, yes, definitely happens in a marriage, but it happens in any other relationship. You're not supporting me in public, or never mind. I was going to say that's something else. If you use the time that's public to confront me instead of confronting me one-to-one, but we digress. We move on. So those are communication styles, which are passive. And I'm going to like underline some therapist-y words about how it all happened. So besides passive aggressive, which passive aggressive is really anything that is not you directly saying that, sometimes it's even an action. It's not even words. It could be a lack of words, right? You mad about something. You mad that your partner or somebody didn't put up the dishes and they said they were going to put up the dishes. So now you slamming dishes, putting them up, being as loud as possible.
Yeah.
You're communicating to them, but in a passive manner.
Yes.
Right?
I knew we think about what was like the Bad Girls Club with the girl in the dishes.
I ain't get no sleep because of you. You ain't get no sleep because of me. Yes, very much so. She was loud. She was saying what she wanted to say, and she was passive.
Yes,
in the way she was doing it, because she could have just been like, "Hey, y'all ain't doing this right. Next time when you're up late, like be mindful, whatever, and give them a chance to do that." She might have already did that, but
yeah. But we talk about this, and I don't know about this for you because I have so many clients, and even for myself, sometimes passive behavior, like even for myself, just seems like less vulnerable. And it feels easier. I mean, even though it's not direct communication. It's not always effective. It's just like almost like even like when someone asks you what's wrong, you're like, nothing. But I won't speak to you. Nothing. But I'll stare at the wall when you keep asking me. It's like, isn't it easier just to kind of just be open and tell them? But like, no, that feels weird. So I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to keep saying nothing because you should know.
But let's talk about this underlying thing. I mean, I think it is vulnerability. I think it is also some people have expectations that if you did something, you should know me well enough that it's going to upset me. And that's not necessarily healthy.
No.
Right? Because we have to talk to our partners. We have to be direct about things. We have to teach people things about us. And when you teach something, it's not passive, it's direct.
Yeah.
And you say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like.
And we also have to be able to give grace for, and I struggle with this as well, but be able to give grace for the fact that people are different and people are human and they're not going to get it right every single time. So just because he or she may have understood that last week doesn't mean that they're going to understand it this week.
Yeah.
So,
or that applies to that thing, but this is a different thing this week. So maybe they didn't think about how that applies to this thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And so there is that hard thing of like, well, we had this talk before. Yeah, about something totally different, like 5 years ago. So I'm
gonna say in 2019, but now today is 2025, and sorry, like I forgot or I didn't understand how it applied in this context.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah.
So there's definitely passive aggressive. You can also see in the trajectory there's some dismissiveness, right? One person is telling the other person their feelings. Actually, both of them did this pretty much. Like Jay was like, I feel like you just tune me out. You just don't listen. And that was the case. He wasn't listening. And he said, I feel like every time we have free time, you're just giving me stuff to do.
Yes.
And they both said that to each other, and neither of them heard each other. They just started compensating for the fact that sometimes they didn't hear each other.
Which I think it's also hard too, because you have to acknowledge that sometimes accepting the thing from the other person means that you also have to adjust yourself. Like, for example, Jay had a whole day full of plans. She did not communicate her plans to everybody else, but she had a whole day of plans and a whole day of expectations. If she would have let Michael watch his game and like the kids go off and do everything that she would have did, now she had to find something else to do. That's not part of my plan. My plan was for us to do something together as a family.
There's the expectation.
Yes. But it wasn't communicated.
Absolutely. And agreed upon. Because she can communicate all day.
Yes.
He could decide if he wanted to do it or not do it.
Yes.
And how they was going to show up and figure that out. But also, yes, some people, me especially, my style is, I need you to tell me what's going to happen before we do it. I can be spontaneous, but I can be spontaneous if I plan to be spontaneous, which is not spontaneous, but very much like that. I need to know, and I'm going to ask you the question so that I know. So if you spring something on me, I'm going to be like, no, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so that's my style. Is that great all the time? No. Look at her face, and she knows. It's not great all the time, but that's not my style. So you also have to learn how to talk. I have to learn how to tell people about that. And like you, when you communicate with me, adjust that, or you're going to get what you get from me.
Yes, because I mean, like we can say that. I know that there's been plenty of times where I've called you last minute and been like, you want to go do this? And you're like, no. I'm just like, oh. Yeah, the first time, I'm pretty sure my feelings were hurt because I was just like, but she ain't doing nothing. But
it wasn't in the plan for today.
Yes. So I had to adjust that of like, oh, Like, was it about me or was it about her? And yeah, okay, yep, that was a me thing.
And it means the both of us thing.
Yeah,
too. And I feel like you have to learn that about your partner, and you have to really be like open to that, because that happens constantly in relationships. Like one person wants one thing, they tell you about it, but you want another thing, and so how are we supposed to figure that out?
Yeah, and I also think that there's also a different level too. Something that I know that and like even like me and you had this discussion. I was thinking about like me and my relationship, but also like I know we've had this talk too about knowing when to talk to people and knowing when you're attuned and set up. I make that face. Jasmine knows when she loses me.
That. Oh yes. Yeah. I'm not even talking about that. I just mean in general, this is an important skill. I spend a lot of time when I talk to people about this skill.
But to me, I think it's like so I think that there are certain times, and also knowing the person, because I will get frustrated when someone tells me that I know can't multitask. Go ahead, I'm listening. No, you're not. Stop it. You're not listening to me because I know you, and I know that you can't do this, this, and this. And
met you before.
And still listen to me. So you're not listening to me. So yes, knowing when to talk to people. But I think that there's also like a sensitivity in that too. Like,
oh yeah,
if my husband is in the middle of watching the game, like I do it sometimes to be annoying. But like I won't go like I'll stand in front of the TV and be like, I'm gonna ask you a question, because like one, that's rude, and then for two, like he's like literally like laser focused and something. So like he's not paying attention.
No.
So I feel like that's like the same thing with like us, like of like, if I know you and I know that something's going on, like let me like pause, ask a question, or like be direct enough to say like, hey Jasmine, can you put down what you're doing? And like, I have a question.
Yeah, give me a minute. Like, can I get your undivided attention?
Yeah.
And I think people, especially when they get emotional, they struggle with this skill. Like when something offends you or you're upset about something, you don't care what the other person is doing. You don't care where they're coming from. You just want to yell and like get your feelings out or like emote. But it's not always the right time. And a lot of times I ask people who are like in relationships, I said, so could she hear you when you said that? What you said was important. It sounded like it needed to be said, but could they hear you? Well, no, I don't think they heard you. Well, what was going on with them that they couldn't hear you? Did you notice that? Did they tell you that? Yeah, well, but I was feeling like, and I needed to do that. But again, like if communication is going to work, both people have to be ready to listen.
Yeah.
So that they can communicate.
Yeah.
If only one person is ready, it's not going to go nowhere.
Yeah, but that also, like you said, that requires the communication of being able to have those conversations. I have a lot of couples sometimes that'll come to me and be like, oh, well, like she wants to talk, like, the weirdest times. Well, do you guys have conversations about like when we can talk? Like when is an appropriate time? I get it. If you're like have sleep right now, it's not the best time. But when is a good time?
Yeah.
Do you give her space to have these conversations, or him or whoever? So.
And do you guys have a consistent way to talk about stuff? Or are they just trying to get in where they fit in? Because that's also a problem. Like, how do you find the right time to talk to somebody and make something happen?
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, on this day we talk about this, or like, we set aside this time to do this, and during this time we also talk about these things.
I agree. Because for me, I don't like feeling rushed. If I want to come to someone and talk about something and I feel like I have like a 2-minute window and you're like rushing me, like my system can't handle that, and I don't like it, and I just don't know.
Shut it all the way down.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot there. I want you to peep all of that, those skills that you need to be working on and improving on. Because it takes, like you said, attunement is knowing yourself well enough to know what's going on with your body, and then being able to know whoever it is your partner is, to know what's going on with their body, whether they tell you or they physically show you.
I think that's the hard thing too about this. So we talk about this a lot, that this happens in romantic and like work relationships, like anybody who you're in contact with, about being able to open and clear communications that requires some level of vulnerability, that requires some level of like directness. This requires a level of you checking your own self and
self-awareness,
and how you receive stuff, and how you have and how you receive things. Like, I think that's the hard thing. The hard thing too, that sometimes when we're not used to directness and vulnerability, we don't always know how to invulnerable, because it can like catch us off guard. Someone just be direct and they're like, oh, they have an attitude. It's like, did they have an attitude, or did they just like tell you directly what they needed or what they wanted, and you aren't used to that, and you can't do that? Maybe.
Yeah. So if we're gonna go into that, that's really real. A lot of things that we get from our families you know, genetics play a role in a lot of stuff, but a big part that we get directly from our raising is communication styles, right? What we see, what is modeled to us, that is the way that we know how to do things or what's acceptable and what's not. And so, like we talked about before, people having a hard time not being passive in their communication. And I think some people who struggle with asking for what they need and doing those kinds of things, for them, the passive communication is a big deal. Like I did tell them that was the best I can do.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's modeled in our families, in our homes, in our relationships. Like I can't really take up that much space. So I'm going to do what I can to kind of get my lick back without saying what I need to say. Is that right? No. But I feel like
I
that's
think that you brought up a
struggle.
good point. I work with a lot of people, or have met a lot of people who are like, this is all I got. I did say it, and it's like, you didn't really say it, but I did. You didn't.
Yeah. But don't you hate those moments? Sometimes I'm like, okay, tell me exactly what you said. Say the words that you said to this person. And they said, well, like, you should stop that. Like, I want you to stop that. You need to stop that. This is the end for me. And I was like, okay, so this is the difference between, maybe stop.
Normally when I ask questions like that, that's normally when people like get like, clammy, because you're like they don't want to say it. They don't want to say it because they know that like once it comes out loud that it was not direct.
Exactly. So please know if your therapist is like putting her thumb in there being like, okay, what really is it? Because we're trying to get down to it. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people do believe they're being assertive, like you said. And then you get down to it.
Or they believe that they like, actually like, clearly communicated. Yeah. And then you hear it and you're like, that's about as clear as mud.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about it and I like the message. I got it. But what does that mean in your relationship? In my relationship, if I like the message, that might mean yes. But like, does that person know that? Have y'all concretely talked about that? I mean, I'm talking about myself. I stay liking a message.
I never knew what you meant when that first happened, and I was just like,
to me, that means yes.
Why does she just like my messages? Or like, okay, but yes, I learned.
If it's a definitive answer,
I learned eventually what those mannerisms
we're
meant.
Repairing even now.
So, but yes, initially I did not know.
But it doesn't mean anything if we don't talk about it.
Yes,
and then we can use that communication on after that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot.
I think that that's all, and also another aspect I want to highlight is listening to the emotions outside of the details. This is a big one, and I feel like that.
What does that even mean?
I think that, and this is something that I do a lot of work with, but I think that it's really hard. We hear what we want to hear sometimes, and we tend to focus on like certain aspects of what someone said, and then we miss the emotional part of the whole situation or how this person is being effective. And that's really hard because communication is like how you filtered it through what it is that you wanted to hear. And so your partner may have said to you, you didn't take the trash out. And what I heard was that I'm lazy and that I can't do anything for you. But the emotion behind that is, I need to be able to depend on you. I didn't hear that.
Exactly. And that also isn't what you said. Like, those are the words that you use. But your partner has to also be able to be like, okay, what do you really mean by that? Yes. Why does that actually bother you?
So instead of me getting defensive, me being able to have that conversation with you, instead of just like fighting back on like focusing on the details. No, what you said was
right. No. Well,
and now we're having a whole argument.
On me. Yes. You're always picking with something. There's always something, right? And again, when we start using these always and never words, that is one of the first signs that like we're being hijacked by our emotions. You're not even here with me right now. You done ran away.
So now you're defending yourself, they're defending yourself, and we never got to what it was that we were actually feeling. So there's that.
Yeah. So like being able to slow down, and honestly, I feel like that's a big part of it. Slowing down enough with your partnerships so that you can do this work, because it's not really fast. You have to do it slow.
Yeah.
When you get really good at it, it's quicker, but you have to do it slow. Like, it's not a yelling, it's not a back and forth. It's not a, well, you said this, I said this. It's like, no, what did you mean by that? Why does that bother you so much? Yeah, I forgot to take out the trash, but like that happens sometimes, right?
Which is the hard part, because then that also forces accountability, and that forces openness onto the other people. If I can easily tell you that I'm upset, but if you come back and say like, hey, Charmaine, like, what does that like, make you feel, or like, what's going on with you? Well, now I got to do inventory. Cause I may not have even known.
Exactly.
I just knew that I was pissed off.
Upset. And you know what
So
you did, and you don't
yes.
even need to be asking me all these questions about it.
But now you ask me to like I'm vulnerable and stuff where you hurt my feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, sorry, at that time you also have to say like, hey, this is the thing for me, or like, hey, I was in a mood. Right. And I think you have to be able to distinguish that. But like your partner can't necessarily tell you that, or they shouldn't be the ones telling you that. You should be the ones telling them that of like, oh, I was in the mood. I don't even know. It ain't even about the trash. Everything just sucked today. Versus like, you keep doing this. This is a pattern. I need you to change it because it triggers something in me. That's different.
Yeah. I think that also we see in this episode, we see when they struggle with doing the same things to each other. Because we saw it in the beginning where Jay came to talk to Michael and he didn't hear anything that she said. She was literally talking in a foreign language to him and he just kept saying like, like I'm not listening to her. He comes to her and he admits that he didn't hear anything that she said and she wasn't listening to him.
After he went through all of this.
Yes, but then he does come to her and he admits it. I wasn't listening, and she was not listening to him. So therefore, like, and then she actually had the nerve to get mad at him. It was like, you wasn't listening to me. He was like, yeah, but I admitted that earlier. So like you were feeling like you'll get mad at me and go in on me, knowing that you hadn't been listening to me like 10 minutes ago.
She did the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. What about mismatched communication styles? Like two people, whether they're partners or not, just having really different communication styles. Yeah. I would say it's like more likely that that's the case than having two people with the same communication styles. And that also is hard too. Some couples do have the same communication styles, and some people think that's a strength, but that actually can be a weakness. Yeah. Because these two people both passively communicated, which means we are never going to talk about the thing.
Yes.
Ever. We're just gonna like go around in circles and be passive.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that's rough. Or you know how you have like some couples or friends are like, we just never fight. We never fight. I'm like, and in my mind, my red flags go along because I'm like, oh, so you guys have the same avoidance communication style. And we don't ever get to the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you guys like both are like securely and like, can sit down and have like,
yeah, but that doesn't mean you never have conflict.
Yes. So yeah. So like my question would like define fight.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So we can go from two very different extremes.
Yeah. Is there anything else to stick out for you this episode?
I think also a very therapist-y word is like triangulation, which I don't like, which I think you kind of touched on before too.
With the kids?
Just like, yes, with the kids. Like if something happens between two people and you involve another party to draw in and to communicate about the issue instead of communicating with the person, right? Like it's a triangle. That's why I'm doing all these shapes, right? That's what we say in the therapist world. But it happens a whole lot. Have you ever been in a situation? Not ever, but it happens all the time, especially with friends too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's a very friend thing. It's just like, oh, she did this thing to me. Girl, let me tell you what she did to me. But you're telling her about what she did to you, but you're not telling the person who did it to you what happened. And then
have you ever been one of those things when like you're with somebody and like, I'm fixing to call your mama. Like I'm finna bring the mama in here. Or like
right here, we're gonna close the circle. We're gonna close the circle. Yes, absolutely. And I think I've been everybody in the triangle all the way. And it's a hard thing. So just, there's a lot to do here when it comes to feelings and emotions and communication and sustaining a relationship, any kind of relationship. These things take work.
Yeah.
It's not always cute and fun. Okay, I was saying not ever. That's not true. It is. But it's hard work.
It is hard work. Yeah.
It can make you feel exhausted. And that's also part of it. I also telling people like, endurance is a thing.
Yeah. Emotions make you cry sometimes.
Okay. So we did have some questions that needed answers.
Yes.
Just a few, not too much.
Yeah.
It's also
this was not so bad, but I'm curious.
Cute little show.
My first question that needed answer was when Michael went to go ask Junior what his mother, what Jay had said to him when he did not hear what she said. He said, oh, you don't want this $100 bill? And put out $1.
Okay. I thought it was like $2. I was like,
it was $1. It was
like the way he was folded. I was like, oh, it's $2. But
I was like, so that ain't.
We know that's not 100. So why y'all couldn't even get a fake 100?
Oh no, I thought like maybe it was like to like confuse Junior, but whatever.
Oh yeah, they just talk about him being stupid a lot.
But that's also another question. These answers like not about this show. Junior really was not stupid in season 1. He didn't become like stupid like that until like the other seasons. But anywho,
whew, neither here nor there.
Go ahead.
So my question is, what we were talking about. So why did he get up? He said, "Oh, I feel guilty. Let me get up and go do something," only to stand in front of her and say, "I'm still going to do the same thing that I wanted to do."
To shame her.
He feels guilt, so he went to her and shamed her for guilting him.
I didn't really feel guilty. I want you to make that. I want to you to think that I feel guilty. If people do that to you, I feel so bad, but I'm still going.
Well, keep that energy then. Why, don't come to me and tell me about what you're not going to do.
I want you to feel guilty for me. I feel terrible.
That's a waste of energy, in my opinion. Keep that same energy on your side of the fence. You already told me you're not coming. Why come to me and be like, well, you shouldn't even have convinced me to come?
Yeah.
We're done. The conversation's over. Anyway, That's my pet peeve. My question, what set was that? That set kind of looked familiar. I was like, whose kitchen was set up like that? Nobody else? No other TV show like that? It felt just really familiar.
Google.
I wonder what lot they filmed on.
Yeah, so I said, like, there's a lot of shows that use the same lot, so there's no telling. It could have been someone else's set.
It just felt very familiar.
He told Katie, asking her what mommy said. He said, next time you pee the bed, tell mommy I did it. Listen, sir, I have questions. Would your wife believe you if she said next time I pee the bed that I did it? Okay, go ahead. Write that one
up. Do you remember what year this came out?
No.
Me neither. I didn't look it up. Sorry. Somebody tell us in the comments. I just thought it was cute when he was like, what do you want, Black American princess? And I was like, oh, did Babs just come out? I think Babs is probably older. Right? Yeah. I don't know. Let us know if we need to do Babs. We really have been wanting to do Babs. We just need a topic to go with it.
I love it.
Because it's just fun. I don't know. Yeah. That's all my questions. I need answers. You got another one?
No.
Yeah, this is fun. We like doing fun stuff and not heavy stuff. Look at that. We will do heavy stuff, but we like it more.
Of course. But as always, guys, thank you for joining us. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, tell your friends to tell a friend to tell a friend, and join us on our next episode of Stay Mentally Dope.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.